The crystal hall was full of gold light, piano music, and cameras. Everyone waited for Ethan Reynolds, the only son of the Reynolds family, heirs to hotels, farms, and factories across 3 countries. He had just returned from abroad after many years. At the center of the hall, his father, Mr. Reynolds, lifted a glass to announce Ethan's engagement to a rich business partner's daughter. The guests clapped. The reporters raised their microphones. The band paused to hear the speech. But Ethan did not walk to the girl in the silver gown. He walked past the red carpet, past the sparkling tables, and stopped in front of the maid carrying a tray of vanilla cupcakes. She was a beautiful young woman with gentle eyes and a shy smile. Her name was Lily. Her uniform was neat but old. Her shoes were clean but worn. Ethan took her hand. He looked at the room and said in a clear voice, "I came home to choose truth, not noise. This is the woman I love." The entire hall gasped as if a wind had blown through it. Someone dropped a glass. It shattered. Lily froze, the tray shaking in her hands. Mr. Reynolds's face turned from pink to hard stone. The business partner's daughter, Vanessa, stepped back, eyes burning. The board members of the family company whispered like snakes. The guards reached for their earpieces. Ethan reached into his pocket and brought out a simple ring with a tiny blue stone. "Lily," he said, "you showed me what kindness looks like when the world is loud. I am asking you to be my wife." Lily's lips parted, but no sound came out. Tears filled her eyes. Around them, people pulled out phones. "Is this a joke?" Vanessa cried. "Is this how you thank my father?" Mr. Reynolds lifted his hand to silence the hall. His voice was sharp. "Ethan, think. One more step and you lose everything." The air grew tight, like the room itself had stopped breathing. Ethan didn't move. He didn't let go of Lily's hand. Then, before anyone could speak again, a shout came from the doorway. 2 officers in dark uniforms pushed through the guests with a hotel security chief at their side. "We have a report of stolen jewelry," one officer announced. "Everyone stay where you are." The crowd gasped again. The chief pointed straight at Lily. "Check the maid." The music died. The lights seemed to dim. Lily's tray began to fall. Earlier, before this storm, Lily moved like a quiet song through the Reynolds estate. She was poor but proud. She was the kind of girl who would give her food to a hungry child and then drink water so she would not feel the hunger. She came from a small neighborhood where the roofs were rusty and the hearts were warm. She washed floors until her fingers turned soft and pale. She sang small hymns under her breath while she scrubbed the stairs. She cared for her little brother Noah, saving any coin she could so he could buy school books. When the cooks argued, she smiled and divided the last bowl of soup into 2 equal parts. When someone broke a plate, she said, "It's okay, we can fix this," and gathered the pieces with careful hands. Lily's mother had once told her, "Kindness is like a lamp. When you carry it, even the night learns to behave." Lily carried that lamp every day. She brought extra bread to the gatehouse when the old guard worked the late shift. She folded the napkins with tiny stars because the children of the house laughed when they saw them. She spoke softly to the garden cats even when they ran from her. She never asked for thanks. When Ethan came home from abroad, he did not announce himself right away. He wore a plain shirt and jeans and walked the grounds without the rich boy shine. He wanted to see his family's world without the glass cover of wealth. He watched the workers. He watched the cooks. He watched the managers who smiled at his father and shouted at the drivers. He watched Lily place a steaming bowl of pepper soup on a gardener's stool when the man shivered in the rain. He watched her pick up a broken flower pot and replant the small tree with her own hands. He watched her give her umbrella to a stranger and then walk back to the staff house in the rain with wet hair and a glowing heart. The first time Ethan spoke to her, it was late. The kitchen was closing. Lily was washing a heavy pan. "You should let that cool," he said. "You'll hurt your hands." Lily looked up, surprised to see a young man who did not carry himself like the other sons of the rich. He had kind eyes, a quiet voice. "It's okay," she whispered. The soup dried on the side. "If I soak it, the morning smell will be bad." He nodded and rolled up his sleeves. Then let's not let it sit. They washed pans together in silence. The night felt soft like a blanket. After that, their paths crossed again and again. In the morning, he found her sweeping the veranda, and he brought a cup of tea he had made himself, with too much sugar and too little milk, and she laughed for the first time in front of him. In the afternoon, he saw her give Noah's old school shirt to a new gardener's son because the boy's shirt had torn. At night, he watched her sit by the staff window, fixing a ripped apron with crooked stitches and a steady smile. Ethan learned that Lily was brave in small ways that big people forget. When a manager blamed a driver for a mistake he didn't make, Lily stepped forward and said, "Sir, the delivery came early. I signed, not him. Please don't cut his pay." She was trembling, but she spoke anyway. The manager scolded her for speaking out of turn, yet he did not cut the driver's pay. The driver thanked her with tears in his eyes. That night, Ethan lay awake and thought, kindness is louder than money when it is honest. He began to help quietly. He settled a medical bill for Noah when the boy fell and hurt his arm, but he told the clinic to say it was paid by a friend. He arranged for extra textbooks to arrive at the staff quarters, by mistake. He fixed the flickering light in the staff kitchen with his own hands. Lily noticed little changes but did not guess the source. Her heart said, "Someone cares." She felt seen, and that feeling was like clean water after a long walk. Of course, not everyone liked the light that followed Lily. Vanessa noticed Ethan's eyes when Lily walked by. She noticed the way his face softened when he saw that shy smile. She saw him pick up a napkin Lily dropped and laugh at his own clumsiness. Jealousy is a fast fire. It does not ask permission. It just burns. Vanessa told her father that Ethan was distracted. She told Mr. Reynolds that the staff were getting bold. She held out new plans for the family company, plans that needed Ethan to stand beside her wearing a suit and a practiced smile. She spoke in numbers and deals. She did not speak in lamps and kindness. Mr. Reynolds liked numbers. He respected deals. He decided the welcome banquet would also be the night they announced the engagement, quick, public, final. On the day of the banquet, Lily woke before the sun. She ironed her uniform until it was smooth as a river at dawn. She braided her hair into a simple bun and pinned it with a tiny metal clip her mother had given her, one of the few things she owned that shone. She promised Noah she would bring home leftover cupcakes if there were any. Noah grinned. "Bring 2, he said. "One for me, one for you." Lily laughed and tapped his nose. Deal. By evening, the hall glowed. The richest people in the city arrived in cars that purred like cats. The chandeliers looked like frozen rain. Lily moved between tables, placing bread, pouring water, smiling small smiles. She tried not to look for Ethan, but her eyes kept finding him. When he finally looked back and held her gaze, her heart jumped like a bird. She told herself, "I am a maid. He is a billionaire's son. The sky and the ground do not marry." But her heart did not listen. Hearts rarely do. Then the moment came. Mr. Reynolds stood to speak. The band softened. Ethan was supposed to take Vanessa's hand and seal a future built by others. Instead, he stepped away. He crossed the hall. He stopped in front of Lily, and he spoke the words that split the night open. "This is the woman I love." Lily felt the room tilt. She wanted to run. She wanted to believe. She wanted to hide. She wanted to stand tall. She did all of these things on the inside at once, and so she did nothing at all. She simply stood with tears bright as stars. Mr. Reynolds' warning cut the air. One more step, and you lose everything. Ethan's jaw tightened. He lifted the ring. Vanessa's eyes flashed. The board members hissed. And then came the sudden shout at the door, the push of uniforms, the claim of a crime, stolen jewelry, and the pointed finger toward the girl in the plain shoes. The hotel security chief stepped close. "Empty your pockets," he ordered. "Open your apron." Lily could barely breathe. "I didn't take anything," she said, voice shaking. "Please." The officer reached out. "Ma'am, we need to check." Ethan moved to shield her. But Mr. Reynolds's palm rose again. Let the officers do their job. His voice was iron. A ring of guests had formed, hungry for scandal, ready for a headline. Some whispered, "Of course." Others whispered, "Poor thing." Vanessa stood very still, a small smile hiding behind her painted lips. Lily reached trembling fingers into her apron pocket. She pulled out a folded handkerchief, a small comb, and the tiny metal clip she sometimes used when her hair came loose. The officer checked them and set them aside. "Other pocket," he said. Lily's mouth dried. She slipped her hand into the second pocket, and her fingertips touched something cold and heavy. Her eyes widened. She had never felt this weight before. She slowly drew out a diamond bracelet, thick as a river of ice, burning with 100 small fires under the lights. A loud cry rose from the crowd. "That's mine!" a guest in a green dress shouted, clutching her bare wrist. People pushed closer. The officer held the bracelet up. It glowed like a trap. Lily shook her head, tears spilling now. "I swear, I don't know how—" "Enough!" the security chief barked. He signaled his team. 2 guards moved in, quick and rough. Ethan stepped forward, fury on his face. "Stop! This is a setup." Mr. Reynolds's voice was even colder. "If she stole, she will answer for it." In the press of bodies and bright lights, the guards reached for Lily's wrists. The bracelet glittered between the officer's fingers. Vanessa's smile was gone now, replaced by the careful look of someone who knows the stage is working. A board member leaned to Mr. Reynolds and whispered, "Let her be taken. It will teach the staff a lesson." The first cuff clicked shut around Lily's right wrist. The metal bit her skin. She looked at Ethan, not with anger, not with shame, but with a kind of sad wonder, as if asking, "Is kindness still a lamp in a place like this?" Ethan shouted, "Don't touch her!" His voice broke. The second cuff hovered over her left wrist, the officer's hand ready to close it. The band stood frozen, the last note of the last song still hanging in the air like a ghost. The guests leaned in, the cameras flashed, and then a new voice boomed from the back of the hall, deep and trembling with power. "Stop those hands now before you chain the only honest person in this room." The officer paused. Heads turned. The crowd parted. A figure stepped into the light. "Where are you watching from? Tell me in the comments right now, and if you're enjoying this story, please like, subscribe, and share so you don't." The hall grew still. Everyone turned to see who had dared to interrupt. An old man in a faded brown suit with hair as white as sea foam walked slowly into the banquet hall. His cane tapped against the marble floor, each strike echoing like a drumbeat. His eyes, though weary, burned with a fire that silenced the whispers. He pointed his trembling hand toward Lily. "She is innocent," he said, his voice cutting through the golden hall. "That bracelet was planted. I saw it with my own eyes." The guests gasped again. The security chief frowned. "And who are you, old man?" The stranger walked closer, ignoring the guards. "My name is George Harris. I worked in this house for 30 years as a driver before I was dismissed when my legs failed me. Tonight I was outside the staff hall and I saw someone slip that bracelet into the maid's pocket." The crowd shifted uneasily. Mr. Reynolds' face hardened. "Do you realize what you're saying?" George leaned on his cane and turned slowly, his voice rising. "Yes, sir. I saw Vanessa's hand. She is the one who put the bracelet into Lily's pocket. She wanted to shame her." The room erupted into chaos. Gasps, cries, and nervous laughter tangled in the air. Vanessa's face turned red, then pale. "That is a lie," she shouted. "Why would I—" But before she could finish, Ethan stepped forward, his voice like thunder. "Because you were jealous." His words rang out over the noise. "You knew my heart belonged to Lily. You wanted to destroy her. Well, not tonight." The guests froze. The photographers snapped furiously. Lily's heart pounded. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Vanessa's lips trembled as she searched for words. Mr. Reynolds slammed his hand on the table. Enough! His voice shook the chandeliers. Guards, remove this man and end this nonsense. 2 guards moved toward George, but Ethan blocked their path. Touch him, and you'll regret it. He is telling the truth. The room now pulsed with tension, torn between power and truth. But just as the guards hesitated, a loud crack filled the hall, the sound of glass breaking. A hand had knocked over a tray of drinks, and in the commotion, one of the waiters shouted, "I saw it too." All eyes turned. The waiter was trembling, but his voice grew stronger. I was near the back table when Miss Vanessa leaned over the staff station. She slipped something into Lily's apron. I didn't want to speak, but now, I can't keep quiet. Murmurs rolled like thunder through the crowd. Is it true? Vanessa? But why? Vanessa's face crumbled. She tried to speak, but her father, red with shame, grabbed her wrist. Enough. We will leave now. He dragged her away from the hall, ignoring the eyes that pierced them. The security chief lowered the bracelet with a sigh. Release her. He removed the cuff from Lily's wrist. The sharp sting left a red mark, but freedom felt like a flood of air after drowning. Lily's knees weakened, and Ethan caught her before she fell. The guests stared, but no one dared speak. The truth hung heavy in the air. Still, Mr. Reynolds' eyes burned with disappointment. He looked at Ethan, then at Lily, his jaw clenched tight. This, he said slowly, is not over. The band began to play again, but the notes were broken and nervous. Guests began to drift away, whispering about what they had seen. Ethan held Lily close. You're safe now, he whispered, but my father will not stop. We must be ready. That night, after the hall had emptied and the chandeliers went dark, Lily sat in her small room in the staff quarters. Her hands still trembled as she touched the mark left by the handcuff. Noah sat beside her, his young face filled with worry. Sister, are they going to send you away? She tried to smile, though her heart was heavy. I don't know, Noah, but we must have courage. The truth will always shine, even when people try to cover it. Across the estate, Ethan argued with his father. Mr. Reynolds paced his study, slamming his fist on the desk. You have shamed us before the entire city. You will lose everything if you choose that maid. Ethan stood tall. Then let me lose everything. What is wealth if I cannot be true to myself? His father glared, his voice cold. You will regret these words. I will make sure of it. That night, storms rolled across the sky. Lightning cracked like whips and thunder shook the walls. Lily lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her heart torn between fear and hope. She knew Ethan's love was real, but she also knew Mr. Reynolds's power was greater than any storm. And in the darkness of the night, a shadow moved outside her window. Someone whispered her name. She sat up, frightened, and peered out. A figure in black stood near the garden, holding something shiny in their hand. Lily, the voice hissed. Come outside, now. Her heart raced. She shook her head, whispering, Who are you? But the figure stepped closer. The shiny object caught the moonlight. It was a key, the master key to the estate. The figure leaned forward. If you want to protect your brother, you'll come with me. Her breath caught in her chest. She looked at Noah, sleeping peacefully beside her. Fear gripped her like ice. She slowly stood up, her bare feet trembling against the floor. The night was heavy with silence as she reached for the door. Where are you watching from? Tell me in the comments, and if you're enjoying this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so you won't miss. The night pressed heavy as Lily's hand hovered over the door handle. Her heart thumped against her ribs like a drum. The shadowy figure outside motioned urgently. Hurry, before it's too late. Her eyes darted to Noah, who was curled up on the small mattress, breathing softly in sleep. She didn't want to leave him, but the man's words stabbed her mind. If you want to protect your brother, what danger threatened Noah? Who sent this person? With trembling fingers, she opened the door just enough to step outside. The air was cold, the kind that carried secrets. The figure in black pressed the master key into her hand. "Take it," he whispered. "You'll need it tonight." "I don't understand," Lily murmured, her voice shaking. "You will," the man said, and before she could ask anything else, he vanished into the darkness as silently as he had appeared. Lily stared down at the master key glinting in her palm. Every lock in the Reynolds estate could be opened with this key. Why would someone give it to her? And why now, after the chaos of the banquet? Fear and confusion knotted her chest. The next morning, the estate buzzed like a hive on fire. Newspapers screamed headlines. Reynolds heir defies father in banquet scandal. Billionaire's son chooses maid over power deal. Paparazzi camped outside the gates, and board members demanded urgent meetings. Inside the mansion, the staff whispered in corners. Some admired Lily for catching Ethan's heart. Others feared she had brought curses upon them all. Mr. Reynolds summoned Lily to the study. She walked in slowly, her heart pounding, the master key hidden deep in her apron. He sat behind his wide oak desk, his face unreadable. Ethan stood to the side, his fists clenched, ready to defend her. Mr. Reynolds's voice was sharp but calm. "Lily, I will ask you once. What spell did you cast over my son?" Lily's lips parted in shock. "Sir, I cast no spell. I only—" "Enough," he snapped. His eyes narrowed. "Do you know what you have done? My son was set to marry Vanessa, a union that would secure our company for generations. Instead, he threw it away. For you. A maid." Ethan slammed his hand on the desk. "Father, stop. Lily did nothing but show me what honesty looks like. If you can't see that, then perhaps it is you who are blind." Mr. Reynolds's face darkened. "Blind? No, Ethan. I see clearly, and I will not let this family fall because of a servant girl. Mark my words, she will leave this house by the end of the week." Lily's stomach twisted. Leave? Where would she go? What about Noah? But before she could speak, Ethan pulled her close. "If she leaves, I leave too, and I will not return." A silence colder than stone filled the room. Mr. Reynolds's eyes turned to steel. "Very well. Let us see if love alone can feed you when everything else is gone." That night, Lily sat on her narrow bed, clutching the master key. Noah watched her with wide eyes. "What did he say, sister?" Her voice trembled. "He wants us gone, Noah. He doesn't want me here anymore." Noah frowned. "But where will we live? What will we eat?" She didn't answer. Her gaze fell on the key. Whoever had given it to her must have known this storm was coming. But was it a gift? Or a trap? While she wrestled with these thoughts, Ethan appeared at her window, his face full of urgency. "Pack your things. We're leaving tonight. I won't let him throw you out like trash. I have money of my own. We'll start somewhere else." Lily's heart leapt, but fear gripped her too. "Ethan, your father is powerful. He won't let you go so easily." "I don't care," Ethan said, his voice fierce. "He cannot control who I love." But before Lily could agree, a loud bang shook the staff quarters, the door burst open, and a group of men in black suits stormed in, led by the security chief. His face was hard. "Lily," he barked, "you are under suspicion again, this time for theft from the family safe." Lily gasped. "What? I've stolen nothing." The chief stepped forward. "The safe was opened with the master key and only you were seen near the hall last night." Her heart froze. The master key. The very one she had been given in secret. She had kept it hidden in her apron pocket. And now, it was being used against her. The chief snapped his fingers, and two men grabbed her by the arms. Noah screamed. Ethan rushed forward. "This is madness, she's innocent." But the chief's grip tightened on Lily's arm. "We'll let the police decide that." Lily's eyes filled with tears. The key burned like fire in her pocket. She was trapped. Again. And just as the men dragged her toward the door, Mr. Reynolds himself appeared, his face like thunder. "Take her away. I warned you, Ethan. Love has consequences." The men pulled her from the room. Noah cried and clung to Ethan's leg. Ethan's roar shook the walls. "If you take her, you take me too." But no one listened. The black-suited men dragged Lily into the night. Where are you watching from? Comment below, and if this story has your heart racing, make sure to like, subscribe, and share. The night was loud with shouts, footsteps, and the sound of Lily's cries as she was dragged across the marble hallway of the Reynolds estate. The guards gripped her arms so tightly that her skin burned under their fingers. Noah's screams echoed from behind as he clung desperately to Ethan's waist, begging them not to take his sister. Ethan struggled to push through the wall of black suits, his voice raw with fury. "Let her go!" he shouted, his throat straining with rage. "She hasn't done anything. This is my house too, and I won't allow this." But Mr. Reynolds' voice cut across the chaos like a whip. "Stand down, Ethan. You have embarrassed this family long enough. If you resist me now, you are no longer my son." Those words froze Ethan for a moment, slicing deeper than a blade. No longer his son? All his life, Ethan had lived under his father's shadow, working hard in school abroad, earning degrees, gaining experience in business. He had done everything to make his father proud, but tonight, standing here with Lily's terrified face seared into his vision, Ethan realized something. Pride meant nothing without truth. He shook Noah free and surged forward again, pushing against the guards. "If I'm no longer your son," Ethan roared, "then I am free to make my own choices." The guests who lingered after the banquet pressed against the walls, their eyes wide with disbelief at the scene unfolding before them. Some whispered into their phones, recording everything for tomorrow's headlines. "Billionaire Heir fights father for poor Maid." The story was writing itself. Lily stumbled as the guards yanked her toward the estate gates. Her apron flapped in the night wind and the hidden master key pressed into her thigh, a cruel reminder of the trap she had been caught in. She cried out, "I didn't do it! Please, you have to believe me!" The security chief sneered. "Save your breath. The evidence speaks louder than your tears." But Lily wasn't only crying for herself. Her heart ached for Noah. What would happen to him if she was taken away? Who would protect him, feed him, keep him safe? And what of Ethan? Was he strong enough to fight his own father, a man whose power reached into courts, banks, and police stations? Just as the guards reached the gate, headlights swept across the driveway. A black car with tinted windows rolled to a stop. The guards paused, unsure. The driver hurried out and opened the back door. From inside emerged a tall woman in a flowing navy gown, her hair wrapped in a silver scarf. Her presence was commanding, her eyes sharp as glass. "Stop right there," she ordered. Everyone froze. The guards tightened their grip on Lily but didn't move forward. The woman's heels clicked against the pavement as she walked toward them with deliberate grace. She glanced once at Mr. Reynolds, then at Ethan, and finally at Lily. "Who are you to interfere?" Mr. Reynolds demanded, his face twisting with irritation. The woman smiled faintly. "You may have forgotten me, but I never forget those who wrong the weak." She turned to the guards. "Release that girl." The guards shifted uneasily. They knew her, though Lily did not. Whispers spread quickly among the staff who had gathered at the edges. "It's Margaret Cole, the lawyer. She's returned." Ethan's eyes widened. He remembered now. Margaret Cole was one of the sharpest legal minds in the city, a woman who had once worked closely with the Reynolds family before a bitter fallout years ago. She had left the country under a storm of rumors, but clearly she had returned, at the worst, or perhaps best, possible time. "On what authority do you command me in my own estate?" Mr. Reynolds spat. Margaret's gaze never wavered. "On the authority of truth. I have been watching tonight's events closely, and I know this girl is innocent. If you continue this farce, you will not only shame yourself but invite the law into your home. And you know how the public loves a scandal." The mention of scandal made Mr. Reynolds' jaw clench. Already reporters were circling the gates like hungry wolves. To be dragged further into public disgrace could damage more than just his pride. It could weaken his empire. He waved his hand sharply. Fine. Release her. The guards reluctantly let go of Lily's arms. She nearly collapsed from relief, but Ethan caught her, holding her steady. Noah ran out from the staff quarters and threw himself into her arms, sobbing into her apron. Margaret turned to Mr. Reynolds. I suggest you be careful, Reynolds. The world is changing. The days when men like you could destroy lives in silence are fading. People are watching now. People are listening. With that, she spun on her heel and walked back to her car, leaving the estate buzzing with tension and questions. The guard slunk back, unsure of what to do. Mr. Reynolds stormed into the mansion without another word, his face a mask of thunder. Ethan guided Lily and Noah back to their quarters, whispering reassurances. But though she was free for the moment, Lily's heart was heavy. She knew Mr. Reynolds would not stop. His pride had been wounded, and men like him did not forgive easily. Later that night, when Noah had finally cried himself to sleep, Lily sat by the small window of her room. Ethan sat beside her, his hand covering hers. The moonlight bathed their faces in silver. I don't understand, Lily whispered. Why are they doing this to me? Why is your father so cruel? Ethan's eyes softened. It isn't you, Lily. It's what you represent. To him, you are proof that love cannot be bought, controlled, or arranged. He built his empire on control. Losing it terrifies him. She shook her head. But what if he's right? What if I'm not strong enough for this world of wealth and power? I'm just a maid. I don't belong beside you. Ethan lifted her chin gently so she would meet his eyes. Lily, you are more than a maid. You are braver than anyone I've met. You have taught me what kindness means. You belong with me, not because of what you have, but because of who you are. Tears welled in her eyes. She wanted to believe him, but fear gnawed at her heart. And then, just as she opened her mouth to speak, a stone crashed through the window. The glass shattered, spraying across the floor. Noah screamed in his sleep and bolted upright. Ethan jumped to his feet, pulling Lily and Noah close. Outside, a voice rang through the night, sharp and full of venom. Lily, go back to where you came from. You don't belong here. Another stone flew, smashing against the wall. Lily's heart raced. She recognized the voice. It was one of the senior managers of the Reynolds estate, a man loyal to Mr. Reynolds. He stood in the shadows with others, their faces hidden, their hands full of rocks. Leave now, the man shouted, or we will drive you out. The staff quarters trembled with the sound of stones slamming against the walls and doors. Noah clung to Lily, sobbing. Ethan stood in front of them, shielding them with his body, his eyes blazing with fury. The rain began to pour suddenly, as if the heavens themselves wept with them. Lightning flashed, illuminating the mob outside. Their rage-filled eyes glowed in the storm. Ethan shouted back, "If you want her gone, you'll have to go through me first." But the mob didn't retreat. They surged forward, stones raised high, and in that terrifying moment Lily realized this was only the beginning of a war she never asked for, but one she would have to fight if she wanted to hold on to love, family, and dignity. The door shook violently under the force of their blows. Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments, and if this story has you hooked, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Because the storm is only just beginning. The first blow split the wood near the lock, and the whole door jumped in its frame. Noah screamed and buried his face in Lily's apron. Ethan pulled both of them behind the bed and stood between them and the splintering wood. Another strike rattled the hinges. Shouts filled the corridor. Get out. She doesn't belong here. Drive her away. Stones hit the window. Glass crackled underfoot. Call the police, Lily whispered, her hands shaking. Please, call now. Ethan had already dialed. This is Ethan Reynolds at the Reynolds estate, he said, voice clipped with fear and anger. A mob is attacking the staff quarters. I need immediate officers. There are children here. He paused, listening, jaw tight. Yes, send them, now. A heavy bang punched a hole through the wood. A hand reached in, groping for the lock. Ethan grabbed the nearest thing he could find, Noah's metal school box, and slammed it down on the invading wrist. The hand jerked back. A man cursed. Open up or we break it down. From the hallway, a manager's voice snarled, the same voice that had shouted hate outside the shattered window. Lily, this is your last night here. Leave or be dragged out. You are a stain on this house. You're the stain, Ethan yelled back. You serve power, not truth. The door shook again, the bottom panel cracking. Noah clung to Lily's waist, every tremble of his body passing into her bones. She felt the master key pressing against her hip, a cold weight like guilt. Who had put it into her life? Why? And why did they want to tie every wrong to her name? Sirens wailed in the distance. Red and blue lights strobed across the rain-wet courtyard. Tires hissed on gravel. The mob faltered, steps backing away. Police! A woman's voice shouted from outside. Hands up! Back away from the building! Ethan let out a breath he hadn't known he was holding. He lowered the school box. The pounding stopped. When he cracked the door, officers stood shoulder to shoulder in the corridor, raincoats shining, hands raised to hold the crowd at a distance. At their center stood Margaret Cole, water dripping from her silver scarf, eyes blazing. Enough, she said, voice calm but edged like a blade. Any person who throws another stone will be arrested for assault. This is not a playground for cowards, it is a home. The manager who had shouted threats hunched his shoulders but kept his chin high. This is private property. You have no right. Assault is assault, whether it happens on a sidewalk or in a palace, Margaret said. When you break a window where a child sleeps, you break a law. Step back. Her gaze cut to the officers. Protect the residents in this wing and record every face. We may need statements in the morning. The manager opened his mouth, found nothing to say, and shut it again. Mr. Reynolds appeared at the far end of the corridor, wrapped in a dark robe, guarded by two men in suits despite the hour. He surveyed the rain, the police, the broken glass, and then his eyes fixed on Lily, on the sliver of fear and hope on her face. I asked for order, he said coldly. I did not ask for a parade. You got a rescue, Margaret replied without moving. You should be thankful no one is in handcuffs yet. His gaze shifted to Ethan. I warned you that chaos would follow when you chose a storm over a stable sky. Ethan straightened. I chose a person over a deal. There's a difference. Mr. Reynolds' mouth tightened. You chose to be poor. He looked to one of the suited men. Freeze all personal cards linked to Ethan Reynolds. Revoke his company key cards. Security clearance. Gone. The words landed like stones in a river. Ethan glanced at Lily, then nodded once as if this was a price he had long expected to pay. Then I will be poor with eyes open, he said. I will not be bought. Mr. Reynolds' face barely moved. Remove the manager who tried to play soldier tonight, he is an idiot. As for the maid, her presence endangers this house. She goes by Dawn. Margaret's chin lifted. She goes when a judge says she goes. I filed an emergency restraining order to protect her and the boy from harassment or removal without due process. You will receive it by email within the hour. Mr. Reynolds held her stare for a long, cold beat. Then he turned away. End the noise, he told his guards, and disappeared into the stormlit dark. Officers cleared the corridor, taking names. Someone swept glass from the floor. Noah leaned into Ethan's side, half asleep from fear. Lily sat on the bed, her hands wrapped around a mug an officer had brought. Plain tea, steam like a small hope. Margaret waited until they were alone, then crouched to Noah's eye level. Are you hurt? He shook his head, lower lip trembling. The window broke loud. I heard, she said softly. It won't happen again while I'm here. Lily swallowed. Thank you. I don't know how to say it better. You don't need better, Margaret replied. She stood and faced both of them. Listen to me. You cannot stay here. A court order is a shield, not a fortress. If they wish to scare you, they will. Come with me now. I have a place. Ethan nodded. We'll go. They packed fast, clothes into one threadbare bag, Noah's drawing pencils, the apron with its stitched star at the corner, a photo of Lily's mother smiling under a plain scarf. Lily hesitated over the master key, then wrapped it in a handkerchief and slid it deep into the bag's lining. Outside, the rain softened to a mist. Officers escorted them through a side gate. The estate loomed behind them, beautiful and cold as a mountain. Margaret's car smelled faintly of lemon. Noah curled up in the back seat and fell asleep at once. City lights rose ahead. Quiet streets slick with water. A late-night bakery with one tired worker. A cat gliding under a fence like a small ghost. Margaret drove without music. Who gave you that key? She asked finally, eyes on the road. Lily's fingers tightened. A man in black. I couldn't see his face. He said I would need it to protect my brother. But now they say it opened the family safe. Margaret tapped the steering wheel, thinking. A gift that becomes a trap. Very neat. Whoever did this knows the estate's bones. They wanted you marked. Vanessa, Ethan said quietly. Or my father's loyalists. Maybe, Margaret said. But timing is everything. A hand places a bracelet. Another hand plants a key. A third hand makes sure the right camera is broken and the wrong camera works. A web, not a single thread. She glanced at them in the mirror. We'll cut it, line by line. Her safe place was not a mansion, not a gleaming tower. It was a 3-story brick building above a small legal aid office, with warm lamps and mismatched chairs, and the smell of soup from a pot someone had left to cool. She led them up creaking stairs to a little apartment. 2 rooms, clean sheets, an old bookshelf filled with stories no one had read in years. You'll be safe here, she said. Lock the door, use the chain. Do not open to anyone without my voice. She handed Ethan a folded paper. Tomorrow morning we meet a judge. We present statements from George Harris, the waiter, and the officers who responded tonight. We ask for protections. Then we begin asking bigger questions. What questions? Lily asked. Why did the safe matter tonight? What went missing? Who benefits if you are blamed? Margaret rubbed her temple. There's something else. Before your mother passed, Ethan, she ran a scholarship fund for staff families. Quiet work. No ribbons. I helped draw up the papers. After she died, the fund faded. I always wondered whose dreams were left in that file. Now I wonder if one of those names was yours, Lily. Lily blinked. My mother. She used to talk about a fair at a big house years ago. She said a kind woman with soft eyes bought all her meat pies and told her, make more dreams. We never knew her name. When Mother got sick, I wrote letters to rich places, asking if any charity could help Noah with school. No one answered. She looked at the floor. Maybe the letters went to the wrong rooms, or maybe rooms don't listen to poor voices. Sometimes, Margaret said, voice gentle. The wrong people stand between the letters and the rooms. A light knock on the door made them all jump. Margaret raised a hand for silence, peered through the peephole, then relaxed. It's George. She let him in. George Harris filled the doorway with his worn coat and honest eyes. He carried a small metal tin. Evening, he said softly. I brought something. Old things from a glove box I kept when I was your driver, Mr. Ethan. He glanced at Lily with a shy smile. And for you, child. A bit of proof that kind faces find each other more than once. He set the tin on the table and opened it. Inside lay photos and papers, gas receipts, a map, a faded program from a staff festival. One photograph made Ethan press a hand to his mouth. It showed his mother, Grace Reynolds, in a sundress under a paper banner that read, Staff Family Day. She was laughing with a woman whose smile was all light, the same smile in the small photo Lily had packed of her mother. Between them, a little girl with braids reached for a pie. "That's my mother," Lily whispered. "And me." George nodded. "Your mother baked for that day. Mrs. Reynolds asked me to go back and buy every last pie. She said, 'No one leaves hungry.' Later, she gave me envelopes to deliver. Cash with a note. For school, for dreams. Some reached their hands. Some were stopped by other hands." He sighed. "When she died, much goodness went quiet." Lily touched the edge of the photo as if it might vanish. The room felt warm with a memory she had not known was hers. Ethan swallowed a sob. "My mother saw you," he said to Lily. "Even then." Margaret closed the tin. "We'll take copies to court. The city loves a true story. And judges, some of them, remember that hearts exist." Noah stirred on the couch and sat up, hair smashed on one side, eyes sticky with sleep. "Where are we?" he asked. "In a place where people keep their promises," Lily said, pulling him into her arms. "We are safe tonight." Hours thinned. Rain softened to a whisper on the window. Ethan washed cups in the tiny sink. George dozed in a chair. For the first time in days, Lily felt her breath slow to match the quiet room. She leaned her head back and let her eyes close. The first thud was soft. A bump on the stair. The second was harder, a foot stumbling. Margaret looked up, frowning, and moved to the door. "Who is it?" she called. No answer. She checked the peephole. "No one," she mouthed, puzzled. A third sound came, a quick metal scrape near the knob. "Step back," she whispered. The chain rattled. The knob turned. Someone rammed the door hard. The chain held, jerking tight. Noah cried out. Ethan grabbed a chair and wedged it under the handle. "Who's there?" he shouted. "Identify yourself." "Police," a voice called. "Open up." Margaret's eyes narrowed. "Badge under the door," she said. "Slide it through." Silence. Then a different voice, lower, colder. "Open, or we force it. We have a warrant for Lily Carter." Margaret motioned and took a breath like a diver. "Slide it," she repeated. A paper slid under, edges wet. She snatched it and scanned fast, lips moving. "Fake," she said. "The judge's name is misspelled. The file number is nonsense. Back away from the door." She raised her voice. "There are officers on the way. Your attempt is on camera." The next strike was brutal. Wood cracked near the lock. The chair shuddered. George rose, gripping his cane like a weapon. Ethan put an arm around Noah and pulled him behind the table. Lily stood frozen, the master key like a stone in her bag. A thin smoke began to leak under the door. It stung the eyes, chemical, sharp. "Back!" Margaret yelled. "Tear gas!" She grabbed a wet towel and shoved it at Lily. "Cover your nose! Into the bathroom! Now!" The door convulsed. The chain screeched. A boot appeared in the splintered gap. Noah coughed, eyes streaming. Lily lifted him onto her hip and stumbled toward the bathroom. Ethan was 3 steps behind when the chain finally snapped with a scream of metal. The door flew inward. Dark figures flooded the room, masks hiding their faces, visors reflecting the small lamp. "Hands where we can see them," one barked. "Give us the girl." Margaret stepped in front of Lily, her voice like iron. "You're making a mistake you can't unmake. Every second of this is illegal." The leader moved without looking at her. He reached, not for Lily, but for Noah. He tore the boy from Lily's arms with a swift, practiced motion and thrust a folded note against Lily's chest. Another man yanked Ethan back, shoving him into the bookshelf. George swung his cane and cracked a mask. A gloved hand hit him hard, and he fell to his knees. "No!" Lily screamed, clawing at the man's sleeve. "Noah!" The man holding Noah backed to the door. The boy's small hands reached for Lily, mouth open in a soundless cry. The leader's voice was a whisper she felt more than heard. "Bring the key to the river footbridge at midnight tomorrow. Come alone, leave the air. One word to the police and the boy is gone." They vanished as fast as they had come, boots pounding down the stair, the note crumpling in Lily's fist, the door hanging from one hinge. The room trembled with the silence they left behind. Lily looked down at the paper, and then at the bag where the master key lay hidden in the lining. Her breath came in shallow, breaking waves. Ethan staggered to her side, face white. "We'll get him back," he said, voice shaking. "I swear it." Lily's hands closed around the note, the letters blurring through tears. "They want the key," she whispered. "They want me to come alone." The room smelled of gas and fear. A siren howled somewhere far below. The city breathed around them, unaware that a small boy's life had just been snatched away. Lily straightened, her eyes bright with a fierce light Ethan had never seen before. "Then I will go," she said. "I will walk into the dark if that is what it takes. But I won't go alone in my heart." Where are you watching from? Tell me in the comments right now. And if this story had your heart in your mouth, hit like, subscribe, and share so you don't miss what happens next. The apartment was still full of smoke, the sour sting of chemicals burning in their throats. Noah's cries still echoed in Lily's ears, though the boy was already gone, ripped from her arms like a piece of her own soul. Her hands shook as she pressed the crumpled note to her chest. The words were simple, almost cruel in their clarity. "Bring the key. Come alone. River footbridge. Midnight tomorrow." Ethan slammed his fist against the broken wall. "Cowards! They came for Noah because they knew it would break you. It's him they want to use against us. They won't stop until they have that key." George groaned, struggling to stand. His cane cracked where it had struck one of the intruders. Margaret helped him up, her silver scarf now streaked with blood from a cut on her temple. She wiped it away and looked hard at Lily. "You cannot give them what they want. The moment you hand over that key, you may lose Noah and the truth both. But if you don't..." Her voice trailed off, the silence heavy as thunder. Lily's knees gave way, and she sank onto the edge of the bed, her apron still stained with the dust of broken wood. Her eyes were dry now, almost too dry, as if tears were too weak for this storm. "He is just a child," she whispered. "He doesn't deserve this. They want me, not him. Then I will go." Ethan crouched in front of her, gripping her hands tightly. "And walk straight into their trap? No, Lily, they'll take the key and..." He stopped himself, unable to finish. Margaret's voice was firm. "We need to know why the key matters. Whoever set this up planted it on you for a reason. What's in that safe, Ethan? Do you know?" Ethan shook his head. "Only my father and the finance director know the combinations. I always assumed it was just company documents, maybe bearer bonds or contracts." George coughed, his old lungs struggling. "No," he said slowly. "I drove Mr. Reynolds too many times to the city bank. That safe doesn't just hold contracts. Years ago, your mother told me something when I dropped her off for charity work. She said, 'One day, this house will choke on its own secrets, but somewhere in this safe, the light is hidden.'" "The light," Lily repeated, her voice almost a whisper. Margaret paced the small room. "Secrets, a planted key, a kidnapped child. Lily, this isn't just about a love story anymore. Someone wants you erased, but someone else, your mother-in-law perhaps, left threads for you to find." She turned sharply. "We will not give them the satisfaction of you walking alone into their jaws. We plan, we watch, and we fight." Ethan stood, his jaw set. "Then we fight." The night stretched long. Margaret called contacts she trusted, old colleagues in law, one or two sympathetic journalists, and a detective who still owed her a favor. Ethan scoured his mother's old letters and files, which George had preserved. Lily sat with the photo of her mother and Ethan's mother together, tracing the smiles with her fingers, drawing strength from the thought that somehow fate had linked their families long before tonight. When dawn came, the apartment looked like a war room. Maps of the city lay across the table with circles around the river footbridge. Names of guards and managers were scribbled on scraps of paper. The fake warrant was spread wide, Margaret marking every flaw with her pen. But Lily's eyes kept drifting to the clock. Each hour that passed was another hour Noah was in the hands of strangers. Her chest ached with helplessness. By mid-afternoon, Ethan returned with news. I checked records of the family safe. Last week a transfer was made, quietly. A missing ledger from 10 years ago. My mother's foundation papers. They vanished the same night the key appeared in your pocket, Lily. Someone doesn't want us to find them. Margaret leaned forward. Then that ledger is everything. If it proves misuse of funds or stolen charity money, your father's empire could collapse. She looked at Lily. And you are their scapegoat, because your mother was once part of those circles of kindness. They want the past buried, and they'll bury you to do it. The room fell silent. Lily felt the master key like fire in her bag. It wasn't just a key anymore. It was proof, danger, and destiny all at once. That night, rain returned. The city streets shone like black glass. Margaret insisted on sending messages to allies who could station themselves discreetly near the footbridge. Ethan argued to come with Lily, but she shook her head, voice trembling but firm. They said I must come alone. If they see you, they'll hurt Noah. I cannot risk his life. Ethan grabbed her shoulders, desperation in his eyes. Then take me in your heart, Lily, but promise me you'll hold on to courage. Promise me you'll return. She touched his cheek, her own heart breaking. If love is strong enough, I will. Near midnight, Lily walked alone through the rain, the master key hidden under her apron. Her shoes soaked through as she stepped onto the slippery planks of the old river footbridge. Shadows stirred at the far end. Lily! A voice hissed from the darkness. You came. She clutched the key tighter. Where is my brother? A figure emerged, masked, tall, with Noah in his arms. The boy's face was pale, streaked with tears, but alive. The key first, the man growled. Lily's chest tightened. The key burned in her palm. Every instinct screamed that giving it up would end them all, but Noah's sobs tore through her like knives. She stepped forward slowly, heart pounding. The river below churned dark and merciless. The rain washed her face, mingling with tears. Let him go, she said, her voice steady though her soul trembled. Take the key, but let him go. She stretched out her hand, the key glinting under the streetlight. And just as the masked man reached for it, a whistle cut through the night. A bright beam of light snapped onto the bridge. Police! Drop the child! The night exploded in shouts, running footsteps, and flashing red and blue. Officers swarmed the bridge from both sides. The masked man spun, dragging Noah tighter against his chest, a knife flashing at the boy's throat. No! Lily screamed. She lunged forward, clutching the man's arm with all her strength. The key fell from her hand, clattering onto the wet wood. The man snarled, trying to shake her off. The river roared beneath them. The bridge shook with the weight of men fighting in the rain. Ethan's voice rang out from the crowd. Lily! But she couldn't look back. Her only thought was Noah. The knife glinted dangerously close to his skin. And then, suddenly, the wood beneath them cracked. The old bridge groaned. A section splintered under the struggle. Lily, the masked man, and Noah teetered at the edge, rain-slick boards giving way. The next second, they all plunged into the raging river. Where are you watching from? Tell me in the comments. And if this story had your heart racing, hit like, subscribe, and share. You don't want to miss. The river swallowed them whole. The water was a black, roaring beast pulling them beneath its waves with the strength of 1,000 hands. The world spun as icy currents slammed into Lily's body. She clutched wildly at Noah, her arms burning as the boy slipped in and out of her grasp. The masked man thrashed beside them, his knife gone, his curses muffled by the choking water. Hold on, Noah! Lily screamed, her voice breaking as water filled her mouth. She tightened her grip, kicking with all her strength, but the river tugged them down like an angry spirit unwilling to let go. The rain above pounded the surface, blurring the line between sky and flood. Ethan's voice echoed faintly from the bridge above. Lily! Noah! Then came the splash of bodies diving in. Officers, maybe Ethan himself. Lights flashed from the banks, beams cutting across the water, but the river cared nothing for lights, names, or desperate shouts. Noah coughed violently in Lily's arms, choking. She fought upward, gasping as her face broke the surface for one breath before another wave dragged them under. In that split second, she saw the masked man swept toward the jagged support beams of the bridge. His scream cut off as his body slammed against the wood, and then he was gone, pulled into darkness. Lily forced her mind away from him. She had one focus, one reason to fight. Noah. She wrapped her arm around his chest, pushing upward, forcing her legs to kick. "Breathe, Noah, don't give up," she cried, though her own lungs screamed for air. Suddenly, a strong hand grasped her wrist. Another arm hooked around Noah, pulling them both upward. Lily blinked through the water and rain. It was Ethan. His hair plastered to his forehead, his jaw set with determination. "I've got you," he shouted. "Hold on to me." With a mighty push, he propelled them toward the far bank. The officers on the shore stretched out poles and ropes, shouting instructions. The current fought back, trying to drag them downstream, but Ethan pushed, kicked, and strained, his muscles burning with every stroke. Lily clung to him, refusing to let go, even as her strength faded. At last, their hands found a rope. Rough voices pulled, tugged, dragged them onto the muddy bank. Lily collapsed onto the ground, coughing up river water, Noah's small body shivering against her chest. Ethan lay beside them, gasping for breath, his chest heaving. The police swarmed around, shouting orders, shining flashlights, radios crackling with static. Margaret's voice rose above them, fierce and commanding. "Get the boy warm blankets, call an ambulance, secure the area now." Lily clutched Noah tightly, feeling the warmth slowly return to his trembling frame. He coughed weakly, then whispered, "Sister, I was so scared." She kissed his wet hair, tears mixing with the rain. "It's over, Noah. You're safe now." But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't true. This was not the end. The masked man may have vanished into the river, but someone far more powerful had sent him, and they would not stop simply because one mission failed. Margaret crouched beside them, her scarf soaked, eyes sharp. She touched the wet ground where the key should have been. "Where is it?" Lily's heart dropped. She looked down at her apron pocket, empty. Her fingers clawed through the mud, frantic, but the key was gone. Either it had sunk into the river's depths or been swept away in the current. Ethan sat up, his expression grim. "They'll come again. They'll want the key more than ever now." Margaret nodded. "And now they know you're willing to fight for it. That makes you dangerous in their eyes. Dangerous people are often silenced." The word silenced hung in the air like smoke. The police escorted them back to the station, where dry blankets and hot tea awaited. Lily held Noah close, never letting him out of her arms, afraid he might vanish again. Ethan sat beside her, his arm around both of them, his presence steady as a shield. But safety was an illusion. The press had already caught wind of the story. By morning, headlines screamed across newspapers and television screens, "Heir's Maid linked to Night River attack." Kidnapping and chaos in the Reynolds legacy. Some painted Lily as a victim. Others painted her as a cunning temptress dragging Ethan into ruin. At the Reynolds estate, Mr. Reynolds read those headlines with cold satisfaction. To him, the chaos proved his point. Lily was nothing but trouble, a storm threatening to sink the empire he had built. He called his advisors, summoned lawyers, and declared war in whispers. "If Ethan chooses the maid," he told them, "then we will cut them off completely. No wealth, no home, no power. Let them starve in the shadows they love so much." Back at the safe house, Margaret spread the morning papers across the table. "This is worse than I thought," she said. "They're painting you, Lily, as the cause of every disaster. You are the scapegoat. If the key is gone, they'll say you stole it. If the ledger surfaces, they'll say you forged it. If Noah sneezes, they'll say you endangered him. They will not stop until the world believes their story. Lily stared at the headlines, her chest heavy. She remembered her mother's words. Kindness is like a lamp. Carry it, even in the night. But this night was long, and the lamp flickered. Ethan gripped her hand. Then we tell the truth louder. We don't run, we fight back. Margaret raised an eyebrow. Fight back with what? Your father has money, power, newspapers, judges in his pocket. What do you have? Lily lifted Noah onto her lap and straightened her back. We have the truth, and we have each other. That must be enough. Her words rang stronger than she felt, but Ethan squeezed her hand, his eyes shining with belief. That evening, Margaret received a phone call. Her expression tightened as she listened. Then she hung up and turned to them. The river gave up more than just fear last night. Fishermen found a body washed up downstream. It was the masked man. George leaned forward. Dead? Yes, Margaret said. But there's more. In his pocket was another note. The handwriting matched the one they gave Lily. But this one had an address, a warehouse by the old docks. The room went still. Ethan's jaw clenched. Then that's where we go. That's where we'll find answers. Margaret hesitated. It could be a trap. Lily's voice was steady. Everything has been a trap. But if the truth is there, I must see it. For Noah. For my mother. For Ethan's mother, too. If this war began with secrets, then let it end with light. They prepared quietly, knowing every move might be watched. Margaret packed documents. George, though old, insisted on coming, gripping a new cane carved with iron at its tip. Ethan kissed Lily's forehead, whispering, I will not let go of your hand, no matter what we find. The sun dipped low as they left the safe house. The city streets stretched toward the docks where shadows waited and the warehouse loomed against the setting sky. Inside that place, answers waited. Answers that could either set them free or destroy them forever. As they approached, the warehouse doors creaked open by themselves. Light spilled out and a voice echoed from within. Welcome, Lily. We've been expecting you. Where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. And if this story left you on edge, hit like, subscribe, and share. Because the warehouse holds secrets that will change everything.